Trump breaking news, Trump's indelible mark on the U.S. Supreme Court. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. With the appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices during his time in office, Mr. Trump made an indelible mark and influence in this body. The U.S. Supreme Court is meeting on December 7th to consider a lawsuit that could change the future of the federal election. This 3-hour session could never have happened without former President Donald Trump. According to Ariane de Vogue, CNN legal affairs analyst, this is a reminder of Trump's enduring influence on the U.S. Supreme Court. Before leaving the White House, he appointed 3 of the court's 9 justices, tilting the balance in favor of conservatives in areas such as religious freedom and abortion rights. His supporters also helped revive a long-understood legal doctrine that was at the heart of the lawsuit on December 7th, as they sought to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It is the doctrine of the independence of the state legislatures, ISL, which states that state legislatures will not have to comply with state court rulings on voting rules in elections. Federal election. The doctrine has remained largely untouched for 20 years, but was mentioned several times by conservative Supreme Court justices during the debate on December 7th. A version of the doctrine was used by Chief Justice William Rehnquist in 2000 to settle a legal dispute between George W. Bush and Al Gore over the presidency. This interpretation of the doctrine went unnoticed until the 2020 election, when it could become a determining factor in voting outcomes in some swing states like Pennsylvania, said Carolyn Shapiro, professor law at the University of Chicago Kent School of Law. Supporters of former President Donald Trump used to rely on ISL interpretations to try to overturn the 2020 election results. Now, Republicans in the North Carolina State Congress are asking the court again. The Supreme Court adopted the ISL, which allowed the state parliament to make its own federal election rules that the courts could not interfere with. Voting rights groups argue that this stance will lead to the state parliament having absolute power to regulate elections without judicial oversight, even being able to choose the winner of its own. They fear that if the Supreme Court adopts this theory, it will nullify the necessary checks and balances, upset the electoral system, and lead to litigation. In addition to North Carolina's December 7th lawsuit, the doctrine was also addressed in 8 lawsuits during the midterm elections, according to Democratic election attorney Mark Elias. Experts say the doctrine is hard to put aside, as at least 4 Supreme Court justices have urged colleagues to take up the case. Mr. Trump has focused on the Supreme Court from the very beginning of his presidential campaign, pledging to change the lineup of judges. After his election, he fulfilled this pledge by nominating 3 conservative justices: Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. These judges all consider themselves originalists, insisting that the U.S. Constitution should be interpreted according to its original interpretation. They also more or less express support for the ISL doctrine. The experts are concerned that the lawsuit brought by the North Carolina legislators could generate difficulties in the future. They suggest that even if the Supreme Court finds it impossible right now to give state legislatures the power to overturn the outcomes of presidential elections and choose their own group of electors, it could encourage similar lawsuits in the future. Citation needed. Future. After leaving office, Trump found himself in a position where he was at a significant disadvantage before the Supreme Court. In the most recent development, it appeared as though the judges had cleared the path for the release of his tax returns to the congressional committee that is run by Democrats. However, Ariane de Vogue, an analyst for CNN, is concerned that the president's influence on the Supreme Court will be difficult to diminish in the years to come. This is especially true considering that 3 of the judges he nominates will serve in this post permanently. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.